So, hey guys, wanted to show you my new car. I've been working on this for about 2.5 months now. The cool thing about this car is this is going to be on an episode of Roadkill coming up. So, I think we should dig a little bit deeper into it and show you what I've been doing to this. To tell you guys the history of this car, because I have not owned this for a whole lot of time yet. It's been just over 2.5 months that I've owned this. When I picked this car up, it was just an absolute bare shell. There was nothing. It did have fuel lines and brake lines, that was about it. No motor, no transmission, no driveline. Did have a third member in it. The brakes were junk. No grill, no bumpers, no glass, nothing. It was pretty much as much of a shell as you could get. I needed all kinds of parts for it, but the 68 Charger has been my all-time favorite car ever. So I've actually got another 68 Charger that I've been trying to build and piece together, and it's really, really rusty. The whole back of the car I cut off. The leaf springs were pushed through the floor. Driver and passenger floor is rusted out and gone. It was a hoopty, but I've been collecting parts for that for the last 4 or 5 years. Since I then already owned that car, purchasing this as just a shell was so much easier because all the parts for that car transfer right over to this one. So one of the things with this car is the body on it was pretty decent for what was left over. Somebody had done some previous body repair to it. This car had quarter panels put on it at one point. One side looked like it was rusty, one side had an accident, which is I think is why they replaced the quarter panel. That must have been at some point in the 80s or so. It was rivets and brazing and all kinds of junk like that. Those have since then been cut off, and that's how I purchased it. So there was half of a quarter panel on the driver's side and no quarter panel on the passenger side. So this is part of the original quarter panel that was replaced on this car. This was not actually... This car was not born with this quarter panel. This was another quarter panel that was put on as well. But what ended up happening was somebody just went happy with some sort of saw and just cut the quarter panel off. So from this point down, there was nothing on this car. So this is what I ended up cutting off and patching across this body line and seaming these back together, welding the whole thing, and of course bodywork, and put a whole new quarter panel on this side. Well, with this being such a shell of a car when I purchased it, I still saw some value in it. Quite a bit of value, actually, because the VIN on this car is an XS29 L code. L code being 440, XS being special. This is a true RT car. But the original motor, long gone. Might know the history of it. I'll have to do some following up on that. But for now, I've got a used motorhome 440 in it. I got that from a friend of mine maybe about a year ago. It was an engine that he bought with one of his cars. He was in the process of moving. He wanted to get rid of it. At the time, I didn't have a use for it, so I just gave him kind of a lowball offer. Told him, dude, I can only give you like $400. He said, okay, and he dropped it off on my front door. So, dropped off on my front door was this unknown condition 440 that I only paid $400 for. Put it on an engine stand, and that's where it sat for quite a few months until I finally had a platform to put it in. I ended up looking the engine over and put it on an engine stand, flipped it over, pulled all the sheet metal off, valve covers, intake, valley pan, gasket, oil pan, stuff like that, and just gave it a good visual once-over. The motor itself, the short block, appeared to be original. It had no paint left on the block, which was kind of weird. But the heads had been rebuilt. They had dual valve springs in it. They were painted red of all colors. And they looked phenomenal and pretty much brand new. If I had to guess, the motor had approximately 50 to 70,000 miles on it. You could still see some of the hash marks in the cylinders, but the heads were pretty much brand new. So I went ahead and yanked the old cam out. It appeared to be just an RV cam. And I put a pretty hefty comp cams in it. I don't 100% remember what the specs were, but it's got a pretty good lope to it, and it's pretty much a step above an HP cam. And with that, I threw it back together with some older sheet metal, painted it Hemi orange, and tossed her in. And now she looks pretty phenomenal. One of the things about this car is it was actually a really cool optioned car from the factory. The trim coat on this is a QQ1 paint code, which is a bright blue metallic with a white vinyl top, white rally stripe, and a blue and white interior. So one of the things is I do have plans to eventually fully restore this car. So before I put the motor in, I went ahead and painted the engine bay in the original 1968 paint code Q, bright blue metallic. One of the really cool things about this whole situation, David Freiberger of Roadkill, one of my other hobbies that I do is drawings. I've done a whole bunch of drawings of their stuff, and because of those, he started following me on Instagram. So once I started posting pictures and video of me building this on my Instagram, he took notice and actually started following it and commented on a couple of my photos. It got to the point to where he ended up wanting to buy a truck in Denver and was looking for some parts. So I went ahead and messaged him, told him I got some parts if he's interested, and told him, I said, even if he doesn't buy the parts, he needs to come check out the General Mayhem anyways. He messaged me back more than excited, wanted to absolutely come see the General Mayhem. So that gave me a 2-week window of getting this running and driving. At that time, it had no motor, no transmission. I had done the disc brake conversion. I got my rear end figured out. I put a 391 Sure Grip 742 case in it. But I had no motor, no transmission. The transmission I did just pick up from the shop getting it built. So that was ready to go in. I just didn't have it yet. So I threw the engine together, made it up with the transmission, got that in that day that I knew that Roadkill was coming out. And from that point, it was just all the tiny little things that killed projects. Had to do fuel lines, finish up the brake lines, make sure my master cylinder was working, which the master cylinder ended up giving me quite a few fits. Took a while to get that bench bled. I had no interior for this car. The wiring was kind of a nightmare. Because this had nothing in it, I was piecing parts together from my other 68 along with the 68, trying to get this done in that very short 2-week period. At this point in time, I'm not really sure which route or direction I'm going to go with this car. This is pretty much exactly how I wanted it. I do want to have a couple of things. Windshield's top of the list to get fixed on this. Past that, I do want to fiddle with the interior. I want to get something in here, whether I actually spend some money on it or I throw some old pieces together that I have. I do want to get something in here. Otherwise, this car is pretty much exactly how I want it to be, which is just an old, ratty, fun car to thrash around in and drive. Because while I can now enjoy this and have fun with it, it'll give me a chance to finish up my Daytona and actually put the time and effort into that like I've been wanting to do. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Let us know if you got any questions as well. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video.